Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, September the 23rd. I promise that we will not talk about the Cowboys today. We're going to try to get around that. George, our good friend George Rodriguez, is always joining us for our Texas report. George, if you could describe the Cowboys game in 5 words, maybe I'll tell you what, I'll make it 2 words. I would say it stunk. How about you?
I'll say interceptions.
Yes. It's a shame, but they lost. They lost in Arizona. So a lot of it. I mean, everybody thought this game was going to be so easy, and that's what always happens. That's what always happens at this level, professional level. You think you're going to win, and you forget that the other guys are professionals too.
You got it.
They may not be at the same level of experience or maybe even quality, but they're professionals.
And it goes to show that any team can win at any time.
That's it. On any given Sunday, any team can put it together, or one team can have a bad day, another team can have a great day, and it's the story of sports.
In the case of the Cowboys, they were missing several offensive linemen, and that hurt.
That's right. Well, that hurt them. And then, of course, on the baseball side, the Rangers swept, and the Astros got swept. So hopefully the Rangers and the Astros will run into each other sometime in October. I think they will. That's my prediction. I hope they do. Anyway, yeah. I think the Rangers should be okay, though. They've helped themselves a lot. Well, we've got some issues today that I want to get into. I want to talk about the Attorney General, the acquittal of the Attorney General Paxton, Mayor Johnson becoming a Republican, mayor of Dallas. These new TPS visas, I guess they're called. I'm not sure if they're called visas, but work documents, whatever they are.
Work permits.
Yeah, work permits. And then, of course, President Lopez-Obrador. Let's begin with that one because that's fascinating to me. President Lopez-Obrador of Mexico is calling for a meeting very quickly with President Biden. Now, apparently, he's going to be up here. President Lopez-Obrador is going to be up here in November, and he wants to visit with President Biden about the migration. I have a post coming out about this tomorrow. And what Mexico is saying, now get ready for this, George, because I think you've heard this before. They're saying that they don't have any more room. Have you heard that before?
I have. And it seems to be coming from the same section.
Yes.
The same people that are encouraging humanitarian resettlement, humanitarian services have suddenly become the people that claim that there's no room at the end.
Right. All of a sudden, there's no capacity. That's another word that they use. And all of a sudden, everybody's finding out that if you let a bunch of people come in a crazy and disorderly and chaotic way, that you're going to find yourself in this exact situation. But George, this could have been predicted. I mean, everybody knew that this was going to get out of hand. I mean, it's crazy, George.
Well, whenever you encourage and reward bad behavior, any kind of bad behavior, whether it's the smash and run like you've got in California all over the place, whether it's illegal immigration, whether it's excusing a kid for misbehaving in school because he doesn't know any better or he comes from a bad home. Whenever you excuse and tolerate and justify bad behavior, you're going to get more of it. And that seems that whole idea seems to be lost on liberals.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
What were they thinking if you encouraged and justified illegal immigration? You were going to get more.
Right.
I mean, you got to just flat say illegal immigration is illegal and we don't tolerate it.
Right.
And no, it's it's been one thing after another. It's been because it's from the triple countries, the triangle countries. It's been because it's from countries who are suffering this or suffering that. And there's always been an excuse. We could just as easily help these countries in their home these people in their home countries, but no, we opened the door and everybody came in.
Right. It's very interesting because I don't know if this is a coincidence. Maybe it is, but that President Lopez-Obrador would call for this meeting with President Biden at about the
I'm not
same
sure what they're
time.
going to say. What are they
Well,
going to
that's
say?
it. What are they going to say to each other? Joe, you blew it. I mean, what is he going to say? Joe, you should have kept the Trump program in place. I wouldn't mind if he tells them that in private, because
Well,
Lopez Obrador is not the most diplomatic man in the planet. But
exactly.
but it's
Or
interesting.
he will say you're going to keep you're going to have to move him in quicker. I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to have to move him in quicker.
Yeah, which of course
Speed up
we're
that
already
conveyor belt.
we're already overwhelmed
It is exactly.
by. But here's the interesting thing that the Biden administration announced these TPS work permits or visas. Now, TPS stands for, I had it over here, temporary, I had it here. I need to look it up again. It's temporary protected status. It is
Which means they cannot be deported.
That's right. It's a piece of paper that says you cannot be deported
Exactly.
while you are waiting, I guess, for your
While you're doing whatever, while you're in the
whatever
United
you do, either waiting for the judge or
and in
whatever
that
to see your
process,
case.
during that period, you're going to be able to get a work permit,
Right.
which is
And
what
you're going to be
exactly all of them are coming for. All of them are coming to work.
right.
So you think it's going to slow it down?
No. Well, that's the point. The Dallas Morning News. I just want to recommend everybody to check out the lead editorial of the Dallas Morning News on Sunday, because that's exactly what they're saying. They're saying the new policy is not going to deter migrants. On the contrary, it's going to create more, because the people who are on their way, they're going to bet that if they somehow can get in, that eventually they're going to get their own TPS.
Exactly.
So it's one of those things where we are encouraging more people to come, and I don't know where this is going to stop, but we know where it's going to stop. It's already tearing up cities like New York.
Correct.
I thought it was interesting. The governor of New York went on television, George, and said, "You need to stay in your country and apply from your country." Well, I remember when people used to call you a racist for saying
Seems like
that.
I've heard that someplace.
Yes, we used to be called racist for suggesting that you stay in your country and apply for a visa. But this whole thing has gotten out of hand. And I was reading something, George. I don't know if you've seen this also. I was reading that, you bring in that many people that quickly into the country, you're going to create all kinds of housing problems, because we don't have. I mean, we're a very rich country, I know, but we don't have housing to bring in 6-7 million people at one time.
Exactly.
Nobody does.
And especially right now, Silvio. I've got a friend of mine who is a builder. In fact, two of them that are builders at my church, and I was talking to him. It is not. First of all, it is extremely expensive to get materials to build. Secondly, the mortgage rates are extremely high. This is not the time, to have a housing boom. It's completely the opposite. Right. So building anything is going to be very, very costly. And you know who's going to pick up the tab? We are, the taxpayer.
Right. Well, the other thing too that I think will happen, George, is that it'll increase the rent on apartments, because there's going to be more and more demand. Most of these people will end up living in an apartment. So you will see more and more demand for apartments, which will mean higher rates.
But again, the liberals don't seem to understand the concept, the economics of supply and demand. They just don't.
Right. Well, they don't seem to understand. They did at one time, because if you remember, the biggest opponents of work visas in the past and immigration reform in the past were many of the Democrats who were basically carrying the water for the private sector unions, who didn't want people coming in and competing with their workers.
That's when they cared about American workers and about America.
But now it's completely nutty right now. It's chaotic. And by the way, this is close to your part of Texas. Eagle Pass in El Paso. Eagle Pass for sure has declared an emergency. I don't know about El Paso, but I read that they're in bad shape. What can you tell us about that?
Eagle Pass in the past week has had over 10,000 illegal aliens. In fact, almost 7,000 came across in one day. And it's reached the point where the Border Patrol is no longer even checking their names or anything of the nature. They're just kind of shuffling through. The other thing is that it's created an underground industry of people, of illegal alien Uber drivers, people who will go down there and get paid whatever they've got by either a nonprofit or the aliens themselves, and they are driven north to San Antonio, to places up here. It's very, very interesting how these underground economies pop up, and there is really, really nothing that's being done to stop them. Even the sheriff's departments are overwhelmed now. They used to be able to stop somebody in the name of human trafficking. Now they're not even able to do that.
Well, I heard that there's quite an underground economy in New York with the migrants who are there.
Yep.
That they've created quite an underground economy. Look, these people have to feed themselves. They have to figure out some way of feeding themselves. So you would expect an underground economy when they don't have work permits. But I still don't believe that, I think the solution is to go beyond the TPS or whatever and simply say, we're going to shut down the border for the time being. There's not going to be any more entry until we figure out what we got inside here.
Right.
When we process the people that we have,
that's
do
what
the
I would
paperwork
hope.
or whatever.
Some kind of sensibility would pop into their brains, but it doesn't seem to be happening. I mean, this TPS policy it kind of shows to me that they have no intention of slowing it down.
Right. Well, I think, and again, the Dallas Morning News editorial points this out. This is more of a political solution.
Yeah.
They're basically trying to take care of the mayor of New York, the governor of New York, the mayor of Chicago. They're doing something for them, but they're not doing something to correct the problem of immigration. And by the way, George, I don't know how you react to this, but I'm getting a little sick and tired of people calling this immigration.
It's not immigration.
It's not immigration, because immigration is when you come into a country legally, when you follow the law. That's what makes you an immigrant. But when you are doing what these people are doing, this is not immigration.
It's not.
And the way asylum rules are being really played with.
Yeah, they're being bent. They are being bent,
yes,
and not straight out broken.
That's right. And I just, a lot of people talk about, we need immigration reform. No, we don't need immigration reform. We need to reform this garbage that we're seeing on the border, which is hurting.
We first need to stop this invasion, this tsunami of migrants. That's what we need to stop first.
And you saw the trains, right?
Pardon?
You saw the trains.
Yeah.
That were coming. And it's interesting because the trains in Mexico, there was a story that came out in one of my favorite websites down there called Mexico News, Pulse News Mexico. I always get their title mixed up, but it's a very nice website. And they're one of the young ladies who writes there had a story the other day about how there were so many migrants jumping on trains that the Mexican train system had to be stopped. They had to stop. They couldn't deliver things on time or everything else, which is crazy. That's gonna hurt them down there. So just a crazy situation. I just don't know how to explain it. And a total disregard, George, from the president of the United States about this, one of his chief responsibilities.
Correct. This situation, again, is one that has been manufactured, in my opinion, by the Biden administration, by the Democrats, by the Obama people who want to transform America. And the best way to do it is bring in as many people as can be brought in, break, if not bend, the system so that these people, there's no way that we're ever going to be able to track everybody down and remove them even if we wanted to. For the most part, these people are here to stay. The issue is now, how does our economy, how does our society adjust to them? And it is absolutely just mind-boggling that someone sitting in the White House would actually stand for what has happened in the past in 2 years since he's been in office. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
No, I agree. Again, it's a total disregard of responsibility. Actually, I think this is the most impeachable thing he has done.
Yeah.
People talk about other impeachable offenses. This one, I think, is as clearly impeachable as anything. So I don't think it's. I mean, something has got to break. Now, President Trump is saying that if he's elected, that he's going to have a massive deportation program.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how he's going to do that.
And so has DeSantis has said the same thing.
DeSantis, yeah.
And so has Rasamwani.
But how do you actually do that? I mean, how do you? I mean, you would have to. I mean, I think I know how they're going to do it. They're going to say, "Look, you've got 6 months to leave. Okay, we're going to give you 6 months to leave, and we're going to give you 6 months to basically go back home. We're not going to harass you. You can just kind of go back home on your own, and then 6 months from now, let's say they announce it February 1st, for example. Then they say, okay, between February 1st and let's say Labor Day, September 1st, it's on your own. You have to go back. And then after that, whoever is behind will be forcibly deported. That's the only way I can see them even trying
and
the
other thing is the other way, and you know, it's happened during the down periods of the economy, is self-deportation because you deny them benefits, you deny them work, you deny them, you know, all sorts of things. If they cannot prove that they've been here, you know, since a certain date, then they've got to remove themselves. If you remove a lot of the benefits, in my opinion, the self-deportation happens. We have seen it during the Depression. We have seen it during the Reagan years when the economy turned, when it initially was readjusting after the Carter years. We have seen it time and time again. This would happen again. You would hear a lot of screaming and yelling. You would hear a lot of drama. No doubt, you will see the leftists just going nuts over it. But in my opinion, I mean, that's the only thing that's got to happen. We've got to bring sanity and respectability to our immigration system once again.
No, I agree 100%. And that's the only way to do it. Now, again, as I've said before, I think you begin by closing the border and at least saying no more. And that at least will stop the flow. And then if anybody tries to come in, then you have reasons to deport them.
Right now, we're not even saying that. I mean, Rodney Scott, the former National Border Patrol chief, was on my show yesterday. And Rodney Scott was very, very blunt in talking to the Border Patrol agents that all they're doing literally is just waving people in. They're not even asking them who they are anymore.
I know. It's ridiculous. Well, here's another story I want to get into. Mayor Eric Johnson of Dallas. Now, Dallas, I assume San Antonio is the same way. They have a nonpartisan election, meaning you don't run as a Republican or Democrat. Mayor Johnson, Eric Johnson, had been a Democrat member of the House of Representatives, the State House. So he did have traditions as a Democrat. But he wrote a very interesting column in the Wall Street Journal on Friday announcing that he was switching parties. And he said, George, basically, to make a long story short, that he was switching parties because the cities in this country, the big cities, really need more Republican policies. The Democrat policies are hurting the cities, they're hurting the people. And it was a real attack on the way Democrats are running our cities. Now, initially, the response to him has been what you would expect. You know, he's a traitor. He betrayed us, that kind of thing. And it is true in the sense that when he ran, he didn't say he was going to change parties or anything. So that argument is not really heavy, but I can understand it. But George, my feeling is that if the people who are criticizing him would read what he wrote in that article,
or if they were honest with themselves.
Yes. Because what he wrote was so true, George.
It is. I mean, look at what is happening in New York and who's causing it. And rather than playing politics, what they ought to do is stand up and say no more. However, instead of doing that, the mayor of New York, Mayor Adams, has been asking for more money. I mean, more money. The mayor in Chicago has been asking for more money. You know, these people who are being disingenuous with politics are the ones who we should get after. I think the mayor of Dallas has been is being very, very honest. I read the article, the news, the Wall Street article. He's being serious. I mean, everything from the anti-police movement to the sanctuary movement to the anti-school choice. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. I mean, every single one of these are 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 uh, are policies that fly against the very poor in their own communities, and they seem to completely ignore that and not care.
Right. Well, that's it. That's it. I mean, the ones who are being hurt by all this crime. I mean, when you take a look at Chicago every weekend, on Monday morning, we read about 10 people being killed, 5 people being killed, 15 people being shot. 1 week, 40 people being shot. It's black on black, and it's happening in the black community. So,
Well, in
I mean,
Baltimore, did you see last week in Baltimore where virtually none of the schools have
yes,
anybody that's performing their math skills at the grade that they should be?
I was going to mention that next. I mean,
None of the schools.
how can you defend a school system graduating young people who cannot do math at whatever level they graduate in? How are we?
Everyone in Baltimore, everyone in Baltimore in a leadership position is a black Democrat.
That's right. And honestly, with results like that, they should all resign in disgrace.
Exactly.
I mean, everybody in the board of education there of
What are
a
you going to do
school
for a
board or
living?
whatever, they should all resign saying we're a failure. We're a massive failure.
Oh
But
my God.
yes, I mean, so my suggestion to any Democrat who's angry with Mayor Johnson, I can understand the anger to a point because, nobody likes to see somebody switch parties. I understand that. But at the same time, they should read the article that he wrote because he makes a lot of sense. And
Extremely.
the stuff that he's talking about is real. And I mean, very, very real stuff. Well, we have one more topic I want to get into, the acquittal of the Attorney General Paxton. It was a week ago. It's kind of, I guess, taken a bit of a backseat, slowly, but taking a bit of a backseat to other stories. The governor is going to be calling a legislative session, a special session. He wants to take up school choice. By the way, one of the reasons that I thought the Paxton impeachment was a waste is because it kept us from talking about school choice. We should have been talking about that a month ago, 2 months ago, but I guess the governor is going to talk about it now. Here's my point, though, George. The governor has a great opportunity with this school choice session to bring the party together after what is obviously some bad blood with the Paxton impeachment. So I hope he does. I hope he uses school choice to bring everybody together. Am I being too optimistic, George?
Well, I hope you're not. I definitely have seen from my vantage point a lot of bad blood, I am seeing a lot of folks point accusing fingers at others, claiming that they are responsible for the impeachment and all this sort of stuff. Then I've seen the other folks who wanted the impeachment reacting and say he's still guilty, he's still guilty, he's still guilty. That, Sylvia, that doesn't help the party. It certainly does not help Texas. I have said it over and over again that I hope that the political wounds will heal quickly. But as of last week, as this past week went by, I just didn't see it. There's too many people who continue to attack each other and continue to fight. The Attorney General has been misquoted. He has said, from what I understand and from what I've heard him, he has said, "I just want to move on and let's go fight the Democrats." But others are saying, no, behind the scenes he's plotting revenge, while others are saying, well, he's still guilty. It just doesn't help. It does not help, and I certainly hope that these small minds that continue to fight will somehow be marginalized by the rest of us who just want to beat the Democrats.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's where I am. I'm willing to forgive and forget this whole darn thing because we got to focus, I think, on school choice. which is, I think, very important issue. And what you mentioned about the schools is, Exhibit A, why we need school choice. What you mentioned about some of the public schools failing to graduate kids who can do math at whatever level they graduate. Now, it's not as bad in Texas as it is in other places, but Houston, look at the Houston district, had a lot of problems. It's time to move on. But I think the Attorney General can help a lot. And I'm going to give him, I'm going to hope that he says, look, guys, let's go after Joe Biden. We have a lot to do to fight the Biden administration. And let's just kind of forgive and forget. If they can do that, then I'll be more optimistic. But if come next February, we're still fighting this battle, it could be bad. It could be bad for the party. There could be, there could be some Republicans who lose re-election, in the real election in November, because they selected when a party's divided, it doesn't help, as you know. So let's hope that this gets better. Do you think that school choice will get through in this session now that it's going to be only about school choice, George?
I think so. I think now that everybody's going to be focusing on it, the issues that have held some of the people back can get addressed and get fixed, and it can move on. But I think school choice is going to become a reality by December.
Yes, I do too, and I think it's a good thing. I think school choice at this point in American history is the way to go. And it looks like it's going to be one. I think the governor is going to have to come up with a program that pleases a lot of different people. So maybe he'll do vouchers in some of the rural areas. Maybe he'll do this over here. He'll do this over there. I don't know how he's going to put it all together, but I do hope that school choice becomes a.
I will tell you, I'm not sure. I'm not sure in Dallas, but here in San Antonio, particularly in South San Antonio, where Jose Melendez, who is running against. Wants to run against Ted Cruz for the Senate. He has a school district that has been taken over by Texas, by the state. And he has been pounding the drum about how bad school choice is and how it's going to take away from the students and how it's going to bankrupt the school district. And, I'm not sure how he can say that with a straight face when the school district is in the shape that it's in.
Right. Now,
it's got all sorts of financial issues, as well as it also the graduation of those kids. Their diplomas are almost meaningless.
Well, and we're putting kids out there in the marketplace who cannot do basic math. Well,
exactly.
How is that helping them? Now, this fellow that you mentioned, this is the third candidate who's running, right? Because there's Gutierrez, there's Allred.
Oh, it's Gutierrez. I'm sorry. I meant to say Gutierrez. Yeah.
Okay. Because
Gutierrez.
Yeah. Okay. Gutierrez. Because Gutierrez, I think that these two Democrats are going to argue a great deal about.
Oh yes.
Education, and I think Allred. It'll be interesting to see where he stands, because Allred has been one of these candidates who never really explains himself.
Yeah.
He speaks in generalities.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling Gutierrez is going to force him
platitudes.
Yeah. Well, we have to have bipartisanship. Well, okay, we do.
Great.
We have to come together and work together. Great. Yeah. Let's come together and work together to do what? That's, I want to hear what he wants to work together. And so I don't know.
And Gutierrez I think Gutierrez is being very, very straightforward, but he's being very, very straightforward on emotional issues.
Sure.
School, supporting the public schools as well as the gun violence.
Right.
He really pounds on that one.
Well, that's his. Of course, he's using that issue because he's from Uvalde.
Yeah, exactly.
And he thinks that he can exploit that, and maybe he can. But I still think that when you get out to the rest of Texas, I just don't think these gun issues work as well here in Texas as they do in other places. I just don't. I think most Texans understand that this is a complicated problem.
It's not the guns, it's the people.
Right. That's it. If all you're doing is talking about guns, you're not fixing the problem.
You're not.
I think that's what they say. Well, George, you're going to be here in the Dallas area.
Yes.
this coming week? I think Plano, right?
Tomorrow, in fact, tomorrow on Monday.
Yeah, Monday night.
On Monday,
hope
I
that-
am going to be at the Hispanic Republican Club of North Texas.
Good.
Monday at 7:00, and that's in Plano at 2963 West 15th Street in Plano.
Right.
So come on
Well,
by.
I cannot make it because of a commitment, but I know one friend, my friend Enrique, who's going to be going, and there may be another couple who may be going as well, friends of ours. So if you run into a couple of people who tell you they're my friend, be nice to them.
I will be there. I will do
be
that.
right. Offer them a free autograph and all that
Yes.
kind of stuff, a free picture. Don't charge them for your photo. Yeah, don't charge them for taking a photo, you know. But anyway, I wish you the very best in your presentation. And as always, thank you so much for joining us, George. It's always a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
All right. Our friend George Rodriguez from South Texas. Another week with George as we do our Texas reports. You know, there's just a lot of stuff going on in the news, you know, these things that we were talking about. But I thought, you know, and I have a post coming out about this tomorrow morning, Monday. I thought that this idea of the president of Mexico wanting to meet with President Biden almost in an urgent way, I think maybe that tells you a lot about how problematic this whole thing is becoming. When you have the foreign secretary of Mexico, that's their secretary of state, when he's basically saying, hey, we don't have any more capacity. What he's saying is the same thing Eric Adams or Mayor Eric Adams in New York is saying, hey, we don't have any room. We don't have any money. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this meeting between these two men, because I think President Biden has really been irresponsible and negligent in how he has dealt with the border. He hasn't really come up with any ideas or any solutions other than just, I guess, reverse everything that Trump was doing. That's been their policy when it comes to the border. If Trump did it this way, we're going to do it this way. But it's been a dismal failure, because the border policy was one of the things that Trump was doing that was actually working out quite well. So we'll see how it all turns out. And if you're going to see George on Monday night in Plano, I wish you the very best. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'm sorry about the Cowboys, and I am very happy about the Rangers. And we'll probably have a few more things to say next Sunday about the Rangers and the Cowboys. Bye-bye, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas. Thank you for listening.